everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we're going to talk about HasLab today. Yes, we're going to talk about the TRON HasLab for sure. It's barely, not even 1,000 backers right now, and I feel like so early I can say this HasLab is in trouble. But let's preface this for a second. We talked about it last weekend on the Toy Duo team where I kind of made a statement that said HasLabs are over, and I kind of pointed to that Hiss tank, the white Arctic Hiss tank coming out, being a reproduction of that HasLab that all the backers paid for the mold. Anyways, we're going to talk about that towards the end of the video, but what I want to do is I want to start off and talk about the TRON HasLab. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, yes, TRON. They build it under 375 HasLab, and my understanding is that 375 is going to be multiple properties being launched as possibly HasLabs. So we're looking at Disney products that are going to be turned into action figure collections, similar to how we got those Dungeons and Dragons figures a couple of years ago. Maybe we get a black hole set, whatever, but these are going to be in that 3.75 inch line. So there's 5 figures, and man, they look awesome, right? They have full articulation, just like the vintage collection figures, so fully posable. You can put them in all kinds of cool poses. Comes with a light up base, and it comes with 2 light cycles with a very short light cycle stream behind them. So I think overall it looks really, really cool. So the problem is, and the thing that a lot of people are saying is, they just feel like this is a little bit overpriced. So at $260 plus shipping, which is the $30 shipping, plus tax if you live in a taxable area, you're looking at a little bit over $300 for 5 figures and 2 light cycles. Now you could say that's a lot of money, so I'm going to just compare for a minute to these Super 7 Tron figures that they had at the Disney parks, and I think still do. So they have these they have light cycles, and the light cycle comes with a figure, and at the park they're like $70. Now I know they had them on Shop Disney for a very limited time, and they were much cheaper, and I was kind of upset because I already had the light cycles and the figures because my brother was able to get them for me. But when they went up on Shop Disney, they were much cheaper, and they sold out rather quickly. Anyways, the carded figures themselves are $25. Now these are 5 POA figures, and they came on a card back. The thing is, you could buy 2 of each figure, and you can open one, and you can leave one on card. So in this situation, you can't really do that unless you buy 2 of the HasLabs. So if we put that math together, let's go back to the math. 2 light cycles with 2 figures, that's $140. No, yeah, $70 each, $140. Plus, let's say vintage collection prices, $20 a figure, add another $60, you're looking at $200. So you're looking about $60 more, but you're getting that light up base. So I would say that Hasbro has calculated the cost of that light up base to be $60. So price comparison wise, I would say that yeah, maybe they're right about where I would have expected them to be, because my first thought wasn't this is overpriced. Now over the last week or so, I've had time to think about it, and I had time to think about the HasLab, and it's got the 5 figures, but I feel like it's missing something. So they have the red figure that goes with Sark, and they just call him Program. Now in my mind, I think back to those Tomy figures of the 80s, and I'm thinking of the red warrior figure that was with Sark, and he's all decked out with his armor, and I think he came with a staff. I'm just wondering why that red figure isn't that warrior figure, because that would have been really cool, right? You get the 3 good guys, you get the 2 kind of bad guys, but you make them the warrior figure. Stand out, looks way different, looks super cool. The second thing I'm thinking about are 2 light cycles. So every time I think of Tron, I think of the 3 guys speeding away in their light cycles. So if I buy this HasLab, I'm 1 light cycle short. But it's okay because I'm also 1 rider short, because they didn't make Ram. So if you're going to do a light cycles with Tron figures, I'm almost feeling like you got to have Tron, Flynn, and Ram, and 3 light cycles for them to be riding in. I think that would have been cool. Add 1 more figure, add 1 more light cycle, maybe get rid of the lighted stand, and I think the price is actually pretty good. So anyways, that's probably what I would have done. So with the lighted base, I don't really see a point. It just lights up. It doesn't illuminate anything that's on the stand. And here's what I'm talking about. So we had these Diamond Select Tron figures that came out. Now they're just painted. They look really cool. They're very detailed. They don't glow in the dark. They don't light up. There's no luminescent paint on it. Nothing like that. You don't hold them up to the light and then the next thing you know they glow. Nothing like that. So I would say that those vintage collection style Tron figures are kind of like this. So they're going to be standing on a lighted base, and the lighted base is going to do nothing for these guys. So I almost feel like, what was the point of that? Diamond Select also did these figures. Now these figures are made kind of like those Tomy ones. They're made out of a clear plastic and you can see through them. If you put these on a lighted base, they would illuminate. So if you wanted to, you could potentially have done, which we were talking about this, kind of a combination of the figures where maybe the body is solid but the arms are done up in like a similar color plastic with the lines painted on, and that way at least the arms and the legs kind of illuminate. The second part about that is I can't open those cards. They look so great. If I get that one pack, what am I going to put in the light cycles? Nothing, because I'm not going to take those figures off cards. So if I want the figures, I'm going to have to open up those cards, and then I'm going to be down those cards. So now do I have to buy 2 of them? 2 sets? And then I got 4 light cycles, which is kind of what I wanted. I have one more than 3, but I still don't have RAM. I just have generic program. So anyways, I think there's a lot of like issues with the HasLab. One more figure would have done it. Reconfiguring a figure, adding a light cycle, maybe getting rid of the light bar or leaving the light scene, and then changing up the way the figures were designed, I think would have like made this thing a lot more appealing and a lot more visually appealing. So the other thing I think they could have done with that lighted stand is give it some sort of a purpose. Now they put the light cycles on there and it looks kind of like the light cycle grid, but that back wall, if they would have added like a big crack where the light cycle could look like it's going through, then there's now a reason to have that, because it's kind of a really cool diorama piece where you got this big crack in the wall and the 2 light cycles are racing right for it. So that would be really cool, and I'm pretty sure somebody's going to tell me you could just 3D print that later, but that's not the point if you're spending $300 on a HasLab, which is a dream project. So my problem with this HasLab, even though I think it looks awesome, I would love to get those 3.75-inch figures from Tron, is that it's just not my dream project. My dream project adds another figure, adds another light cycle, makes them luminescent, gives some purpose to the lighted base, the whole thing. Okay, so anyways, that's the HasLab. I think it's got a few issues. I think a lot of people are working through it. In the end, we're going to see what happens, because I'm really hoping it backs, because at the very least, I would love to be able to see my Tron figures up there on the shelf. And you know what? I will open them, because if it comes down to it, I'm not buying 2, but I will open those, but I'll save the cards somewhere, like in a box. I don't know. Anyway, so the HasLab as a whole, let's talk about that for a second. Here's where I have my secondary issue. So I backed the His Tank. I backed the Dragonfly. I backed Galactus. I backed the Sentinel. I backed a lot of the HasLabs. But Hasbro now has told me they don't want to leave money on the table. So they're going to take that mold that was paid for by backers and they're going to stamp out a new product. What are they going to sell that for? So that Arctic His Tank, which isn't going to have lights, it's not going to be exactly the same as a His Tank. Let's get that straight so nobody tells me it's not the same. It's not going to have lights. It's going to be painted different. It's going to have some different accessories. And the model they had looked really cool. Those accessories that are attached to it, everything looked really cool on it. So I would have liked to have those for my His Tank also. But how much is it going to cost? Is it going to be $300? Is it going to be $200? Is it going to be $100? Because their production costs are really just limited to producing the item. Because the mold is already bought and paid for by HasLab backers. So if it's $150, that just tells me I didn't have to spend $300 for that His Tank. And I know everybody's saying, but you wouldn't have the black and red one with the 4 figures. Well, the 4 figures were all bonuses. And they originally said that those were not factored into the price. They were bonuses based on the extra backers. We now know that's not really true based on a recent interview with a former HasLab employee. But anyways, now that they've shown that they don't want to leave money on the table, if this Tron set gets backed, I'm going to have my opportunity probably to buy additional figures, right? Because they're not going to leave money on the table, and the molds will have already been paid for, so why not? So what I'm saying is, I'm going to spend a lot more money to get this HasLab than I really needed to, because if I just let some other people back it, I'll be able to get these figures really cheap off the backs of the people who funded the HasLab. That's what this His tank is. It's a dream project that could never be sold at retail. Until we decide we don't want to leave money on the table, then we could just stamp out a retail version and sell it on our website. Well, maybe that's what they should have did with this Tron thing. They should have just released the 5 figures, sold them on their website, released the light cycles, sold them on their website, and thought about a different kind of a HasLab. There's no reason why these retail items, nothing here is so spectacular that it couldn't be sold at retail. The only reason that they're doing a HasLab is because they want you and me to pay for the production. They don't want to take any chances with their money to produce these figures. That's what HasLab really means. We, as a company, don't want to risk any of our money to give you what we think you want, which really isn't exactly what you want because we just threw something together. But anyway, so the Proton Pack's been redone. The His tank now has been, or is going to be redone, and at what price. And action figures that were locked behind tiers were redone. So that's why I say the HasLab model is kind of done. I think they should just rename the thing too. You pay for it and we'll make it. I don't know. Think of a name for that. They could just call it the Hasbro crowdfund, and they can just put the stipulation in there that like every couple of years we'll just remake these figures. I think we had talked about this on the Toy Duo team a while back too. I have no problem with them reproducing this tank. I just wish that they would be more upfront in the beginning. Now that we know that they're not going to leave money on the table and they'll reproduce it to their heart's content in whatever color or minute detail difference they want, just to get it to you, now you really have to think when you see a HasLab, is that price for me, or do I wait it out and just get like a basic kind of thing later with no lights or whatever for much cheaper? So the big test was going to come now when they reproduce one of these Star Wars Vintage Collection ships, because they don't put lights in those anyways. So how will it be different? Will the box be different? We shall see, because I doubt they want to leave money on the table if somebody shows great interest in a few years to get the Ghost. It's not going to come with the extra figures. It's not going to come with lights, but it didn't come with lights anyways. So anyways, tell me what you guys think in the comments. What do you think of that Tron HasLab? Do you think it should have been different? Do you like some of my ideas about the extra figure RAM and maybe making the program do the warrior, and maybe how they would change up the figures so they could light up and glow? Or do you just like it the way it is? And what do you think about the HasLab model, and do you think they should just not call it a HasLab anymore, or do you even care? Because some people just don't care. But in my mind, change the name of it, because at this point you've now watered it down, and I have to question whether or not I think it's worth backing or not, because I can think about whether or not I'm going to get it cheaper later in some, maybe a different color. Anyways, tell me what you guys think. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And you know what? Have a fantastic day.